What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your daily astrology horoscope for Thursday, December 3rd, 2021. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you're doing well. Coming into this new moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, really getting ready to cut away an old story, get ready for a new quest here, a new journey in our life, and it's a big one. This is an eclipse that's closing out the eclipse cycle for Sagittarius and Gemini as we're getting ready to see the nodes on January 22nd come into Scorpio Taurus axis and be there for 18 months. So it's intense. And of course that moon went through a lot in Scorpio, came into a dark moon phase, brought up just a lot of deep emotion, having us really get to the bottom of our personal lives, make decisions about the story we want to go on, find courage, strength, a lot of that. And that moon's going to come into Sagittarius today as we're building up to this big eclipse energy, which will be on the West Coast just before midnight, and on the East Coast or anywhere else in the world, it'll be on December 4th. I'm going to pull that chart up today and we're going to dissect that a little bit. But wow, just even the build up to that eclipse is pretty intense. We see the moon with the South Node, and the South Node represents the past, right? So, we're really closing this out with closing a lot of doors of what the world used to be. Sag has this world energy, all these like guru type energies, things that we thought we really knew. And gosh, we don't really know. We're in kind of uncharted territory, and that's even with Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius meeting there. We're trying to move forward into some kind of a future, and kind of like we need to innovate in unique ways in our life. And I think that this is a big chance to open up one of the greatest stories of your life. Like, it feels like destiny, even with Pluto at 25 degrees, Venus getting there. A lot of Capricorn energy is your destiny. So we're seeing, where destinies are splitting right now within the collective, who's ready to transform their destiny to the greater story, the universal law, if you will, with Sagittarius. And it's kind of like getting emotionally ready to follow God in a lot of ways, especially with Neptune now direct for this eclipse. And Sagittarius, these are both signs that do deal with God energy and this natural universal law that does govern over everything. And this is like I think it's a big checkpoint for people that are following the universal truth, the universal law within them, to see the big picture, to have visions, and to bring those visions into your environment, and to cut away what isn't of the ultimate truth in your life. So this is like big chapter change, big energy. Sag is Jupiter. It's big, it's a lot, and it's also mutable, so we're having to really change up where things are going. And this is it's an 18-year cycle that we're closing to open up another 18-year cycle. The world's going to be a different place. This is big for travel. Like with the South Node there, this is going to change travel. Last time we had this nodal axis was when the TSA came out. Of course, you're already seeing what kind of restrictions look like they're coming down the pipeline for international travel. But will that go to domestic travel too? The TSA did, regardless of if you were flying from Sacramento to Los Angeles, like you had to go through TSA and play by those rules. Like, travel is going to change forever. Education with Sagittarius, the education system's about to change. We're just in the midst of so much change that we're about to see. It's unbelievable, but this is where people can believe that they're going to stay in that old world with the South Node there, and they're going to believe that everything is actually going to go back to normal. And we just have to be accepting that the expanse shifted. Like, we're in a different world now, and it's kind of about like playing that game with the Capricorn energy too, and the cycles that met there, and even Venus at 22 degrees. Like, we're looking at, that's a sensitive spot in astrology ever since Saturn, Pluto, the Sun, and Mercury met at 22 on January 12th of 2020. That was the game changer, right? That changed everybody's life. And this is where you have to know how to play the game in the game and have your intuition, your universal truth guide you to what that structure is going to be like. And I think many people are ready to break away, to individuate, to start building structures that are better for the people with the Aquarius energy and Saturn there, Jupiter Saturn meeting there, starting a 20-year cycle in Aquarius on the solstice of last year, which we're almost up to the year anniversary of. Like, there's a lot that we're having to realize within money, relationships, governments, the hierarchy of life, the system of life, the game of life, and our destiny that is on this, it's changing. You know, time, space is Capricorn, time, space. Saturn rules the world card in tarot. We're talking about literally our time, space that we grew up in and that we were raised in, learned in. It's getting a complete overhaul. And we have to adapt. Like, that's what we kind of came here to do. And that's evolution in a sense, is like, we have to keep kind of going to the next step. We spiral up as a collective, as humanity. And I think that this is a very important day as we're closing out old cycles so that we can expand and grow into new. We do want to be hopeful, but you know, this is the final days of a Scorpio lunation. I mean, this is the final day of the Scorpio lunation, really. So like, all of that deep work, like in the purge that, you know, we could have gone through, that's all, you know, kind of like at its final culmination moment today. And it can feel like a lot, as, you know, there's amplifying energy with Jupiter and with Mars at 23 Scorpio. You know, Mars is squaring off with Jupiter. And this is where you can't let, like, you know, beliefs just lead you blindly. This is very much about having, you know, your deep security and identity and your strength and your courage to expand into your future. So I think that, you know, there is positive to this square between Mars and Jupiter as we're coming into this eclipse, but it's also like very deceiving, because it's almost like the belief that everybody in the collective has to do one thing is trying to control people. But this Mars is very strong in Scorpio. +5. You know, Jupiter's +0. It's just chilling in Saturn's home in Aquarius right now. So I do think that, you know, people can really expand into their destiny and into their future and connect to that life right now. But it's about the action. Like, that's the square point. It's the force of energy. It's like, have to do something. Because if you don't do something for yourself, or what you know is right for you, or what you're, you know, your deepest sense of self, because Mars at this point, like, it's pretty edgy in Scorpio, but it's done a lot of work. Like, we've gone through layer after layer after layer after layer, and it makes us very strong, and it makes us very, like, we're paying attention. Like, Mars in Scorpio is like not just like aloof, if you will. Like, it's very honed in, so we can be very honed in on how to expand our worlds right now. But we have to do it, and we have to be willing to go into the new story and not stay in the old one, because, you know, facts have come up in our lives. Things have changed. There were pivots that have to be made. I mean, you can just look out at reality. It's pretty obvious, like, the change was inevitable, and you have to do something for yourself right now. That sun's going to be at 11 degrees of Sagittarius. Like, this is really putting the final touches on this new journey and this new destiny, this new quest. It's almost like we're getting married to a very important story in our life right now. And this is where you kind of have to commit, because Saturn's in sextile to this energy, and the moon is also going to sextile Saturn coming into this eclipse. Like, we got to be willing to dedicate to this bonding with Mars and Scorpio of this future that we can go into, that's innovative, individuated, unique, and like, hold the line for what you want. And it's like having a great vision and then going and making the vision happen, instead of just with a station Neptune here, just going into dreamland and not like coming back into physical reality, which Saturn and Pluto and Venus are like trying to, like, let's get deeply intensified in the things that make us feel good in this reality, in this world, for what you want. And let's figure out and let's get to the bottom of what that is that you do need so that you can rebuild up from it. And that goes to relationships, to jobs, career stuff. Like, this is people changing. I know it's going to sound crazy. People are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to change my whole life. Like, this next 18-year cycle, if you thought your life has changed up to this point, we don't even know. Like, life is going to change more than you could probably ever predict it to. That's how important this story is just for humanity. And it comes down to you really wanting to expand and in a very constrictive and restrictive world, kind of, break out for what gives you a sense of freedom and individuated purpose for your values, and link up with people and create community and tribe with other people that want to do that, because we're so split and things are getting very weird. And that South Node's coming into Scorpio, and like, I hate to break it to people, but if you thought that scary stuff came out in the news or in the media over the last 21 months or whatever, like, I hate to break it to you, but you haven't seen the projection of fear that's coming. This South Node in Scorpio is even more intense, because the last time it was there, Pluto had just come in. Actually, Pluto was in Sagittarius. So the dispositor of it was completely different. And now it's in Capricorn with a Pluto return. Like, there's a major power and manipulation grab that's coming, and that's why this story is so important for people, because you're going to have your story and your divine will kind of like laid out, and you're going to have to be in like agreement with God to go on this very unique story to you, and other people are going to go on a similar one. But it's like, you got to be willing to like marry this sort of experiment that you're creating in your own life, and not falling for the experiment that's trying to control you. So it's kind of, in a sense, controlling what you experiment with and what you don't. And that's going to make all the difference on this next journey and what you're going to do, because that's where this like whole split is coming down to, is like, there's a sort of dystopian social credit system that's pretty obviously looming at this point. Like, I mean, I could like sugarcoat that, but it's true. North Node Gemini, there's been enough facts come out. I've seen grocery stores that have locked up their food and their drinks, and you're going to have to scan yourself in with the stuff that they provide you, which is very Pluto government, Scorpio with the South Node there. You have to do what we want you to do, or you don't get the goods. That's manipulation. And we're already we're about to see how toxic this relationship to our governments are, with Venus this whole month in December with Pluto, and then retrograding, and then meeting back up with Pluto with Mars in February. Like, we're just getting started. So we're about to see some very manipulative moves in reality, and well, we got to be willing to expand our worlds and expand for the journey that we want to go on, not go on someone else's experimental journey. Like, that's what it is. And yeah, it's a big deal. Let's go to the eclipse chart. It's going to be at 11:43 on the West Coast, so 2:43 on the East Coast. This eclipse is going to be huge for Australia, China, New Zealand. It's going to be, it's hitting in that area very hard. So we already can look out and see, yeah, like Australia's that's a big deal right now. They are going through some chaos. It's almost as if they're like the guinea pigs for this whole thing. And bless them, many of them are standing up for their freedom, and they really do need to declare their independence, and I hope they do. And that could be part of this story that's changing for them. But this is going to be so big for that region So it's not as big for the United States. Like, it's big for all of us, but in terms of like nations and countries, woo, there's some interesting stuff going on in that southern hemisphere over there that we kind of got to pay attention to a little bit, like just to see what's going on, because that could be the catalyst for maybe what we all have to go to or go through. Because in some ways, with the Aquarius energy, like, there's no running from it. Like, you're part of the collective. You know, we have to. We're all in it together. That's how equal of a playing field it is. So when one place goes through something, there is a ripple and a wave effect that, you know, I mean, look at this virus, right? Like, the whole world, right? So just throwing that out there. Okay, so this eclipse is at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. That's a very expansive degree. I think that this is amazing for starting the new story that's expanding you like Destiny expanded. Like, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think that there's so much opportunity when it comes to Sagittarius. There's opportunity for more knowledge, more universal truth, more universal wisdom, more intuition, more knowing of your destiny and of your path. But it's also about believing it. And we're seeing Mercury here, like, not in its favorite place to be, and also getting ready to square off with Neptune. So, like, there can be a pretty big confusion or a pretty big just belief and not wanting to look at the facts and not wanting to, like, accept change and just stay kind of like, nope, I know the way. And it's like, okay, if your way doesn't match with the divine will, and it's just like your ego pushing against, and just, nope, I'm just gonna believe what I'm being told. I'm just gonna do what everybody else is doing, and I'm not gonna, take my power back and believe in myself and believe in my unique destiny. Then everything, it's kind of sketch, and we could be extremely confused and not know which way to go. So people can be searching for this door in life that they want so badly, when it's probably something you've already thought of. Like, it's probably something that you've already started. And if not, it's just about really tuning in to what you really want to do, and not playing in the old story anymore, but creating a new story, making a change. Like, I think there's so much opportunity for people right now. It's crazy. Like, I'm pretty excited for this solar eclipse. I really am. It's making great aspects to Saturn. Like, we can really marry and kind of like concrete a new story into our life that we can dedicate to, that's unique, individuated, moving into the future, that's connecting. But there's also this energy where it's like you can choose to disconnect from your highest truth and just believe in like some old system and old story that Pluto's going to rewrite over these next couple years here coming into 2024. Like, our whole system is at a very crucial point, and if you just want to stay in that like time and space, it's not going to go well. So this is just one of the most expansive, great times to cut ties with that, because the south nodes are in Sagittarius, and this is in a south node eclipse. You can cut ties with that story right now. There's, like, the astrology saying cut ties with that story. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't just a conspiracy. It's changing. New slide. New quest. Like, that quest, we finished that quest. Believe it or not, everything you did from 2002 up until now, that quest is done. You learned all you needed to do. You did all you explored everything you needed to explore in that quest. It's done. There's a new one now. And that's where you're going to open things up. And that's where, I think that's where the positivity and the hope is in what's new, that's exciting, that you feel passionate about, that opens your heart up instead of this like forced belief. And that's where I think also with Mars square Jupiter and Neptune square Mercury, like, we're getting two personal planets here squared by very like deceptive and trippy kind of planets. Like Jupiter, like, you look at the planet Jupiter, it's an acid trip. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jupiter is an acid trip. And it's kind of like squaring our identity. Like we can feel like we're tripping right now if we're not expanding to a future that's more individuated and kind of like on a more rebel scale. And Mercury, of course, is our lower mind. And then Neptune is just like, this is like where the media, because remember when Mercury was in Gemini, it did retrograde and make a Cazimi with the sun, square Neptune. It was a long time that Mercury squared Neptune. We were seeing the seeds of that story planted then. And this is where people are very vulnerable, because Mercury was very strong in Gemini. So, it was very strong Mercury, kind of like holding its logical sense, reevaluating its truth, and getting squared by Neptune. So it was almost like God was like, hey, keep going towards the vision of your truth in your environment and you'll be good. And you just had to come to that inwards, understanding. Now Mercury's in detriment in Sagittarius, and oh boy, people can be like, there's culty energy really with the South Node in Sag and with Neptune and a strong media presence. If you're not spiritually connected right now, so that's where it's almost like if there is no spiritual backing to anything in life, it is false. And people might not want to hear that too. But guess what? The media doesn't ever talk about spirituality, God, just science. Doesn't bring up any of the divine science, mix in anything. There's no alchemy there. Like, that's how you're going to know that it's fake. If it doesn't have a spiritual backing with natural law, divine law, if it's just man-made law, I'm sorry, but that's a power grab. It's manipulation. It's no bueno. And you have to discern that for yourself. And this is a huge eclipse, and it's also quincunx Uranus. Just like every new moon that we've had pretty much this whole year, it's been in some aspect to Uranus. So this is no different, really, but it is Uranus retrograde at 11. I mean, it's pretty like serious at that 11th degree, and like trying to get our values individuated in order so that we can like get ready to move forward again. And quincunx our beliefs and our story, like kind of your radical story is the one. And you're channeling that one. And you know it in your spiritual truth, in your heart. And it's like you have to listen to that, and that's what's going to liberate you. Because if you're not going about life right now based on an individual sense of value, then you're just going to get caught up in what everybody else is doing. And that's why Uranus sucks in Taurus, is because we can't all do the same thing as everybody else. There's no such thing as like a collective value system. We're all individuals. We all came here. We're all unique. We're all a different fractal piece of source incarnate that's trying to learn something different. So like the fact of like putting everybody in one box to do the same thing is absolutely mad. And it's like the least divine thing there is. So we have to rebel our story to match that. But it's weird right now because there's still this old system in play that Pluto hasn't completely gotten to the end of Capricorn yet. So we're still in this old system that we still got to figure out. And that's the beauty of Saturn and Jupiter here in Aquarius, is we can figure these things out, but they have to be new ways. Aquarius doesn't go backwards. Like Aquarius is going to fix things, objectify, and move forward. Aquarius would rather blow up the old world than go back to it. It wants to go to the new, the exciting, the stimulating, a smarter direction. It doesn't want to go back into Stupidville. Like, that's not Aquarius, So this is where we have to be very smart and make really good decisions about where God's trying to take you, and listen to that and not let our ego get in the way of a higher calling, and to really tune in to what that can be. So if people are confused right now and don't know what they want to do or what the story is going to be, or there's so many things in life right now, you have to grab a hold of your strength here, get strong in your beliefs, about your future, your family life, your home life, your job, everything in life right now that's trying to keep you in a box, and you have to be willing to liberate and break out of that box so you can expand who you are and the story that you want to go on, and that's going to help link up with people. There's a lot of excitement in this to me, because that old story just needs to go. It's a mess. Like we saw the tail end of that story. This is where we get to choose if we want to live in that story or if we're really ready to move forward from that story and expand out of it. And I'll be honest, I think humanity is, for the most part, at least the real players in humanity, are going to expand and grow out of this. So, little intense horoscope. Sometimes it's just when I look at things and I look at going forward, it's like I have to just hit. So it's one of those days. I hope you do have a beautiful Friday. I hope you have a beautiful solar eclipse. This is the new story. Like, this is where you can... This is the story you came here to write. Like, that's how important this time is. And these moments is like that whole story before was the prep and the stage for this great story of your destiny and your future. And this is just where you gotta step up for your freedom to go on that quest, to go experience what God has in store for you, and to not be held back by man-made law. I feel like this is the biggest sort of chapter change of trying to merge divine law and man-made law into something that works. And we've been so stuck in this, man-made law reality. I just think that this is where we change that. Like, I can't help but feel like that's where things are going, is figuring out something better. And the more of us that go on our unique journey and figure out something better from a higher perspective, a higher place, the change that we want to see and that we're hopeful for and the vision, it's not out of the cards at all. Speaking of the cards, 7 of Wands in reverse. Yeah, quit fighting. Quit fighting against the change that you need to express yourself fully, to be in your heart. Like, we're fighting to go into maybe one of the greatest stories we've ever got to start in our life, because we're so used to the other story and we're so stuck there. And we got to stop being in conflict with the change that's going to bring us closer to our divine purpose and what that quest is going to look like. 10 of Pentacles upright. The dream life, the dream reality can be a part of this story. It really can. But this is where it's like you have to take that into your hands and get everything, start planning for what that's going to be like. Start doing the things to get your reality, your environment in tune with the divine will, so that you can have the life that is in alignment with that. And then wants to show up in physical form for that. It's just, this is it. This is beautiful. So, last card, the Hierophant. Yeah, literally, we gotta kind of trust in the higher power, have our divine presence with us, and use that as our tradition. You use what is God trying to tell you to do right now, and that's what's important. And it's like you can know, like, there is a knowing with this. And it's like, if you know your spiritual destiny and what that story can look like, this is where if you just dedicate and you hold that practice in your life, it's going to show up. And that's where the belief and the faith comes in. So we definitely want to hold faith. It's not like just release all faith. This is new faith that's coming in. So I love you all very much. I hope you enjoyed this kind of long presentation, but Yeah. Sending you all my best, and I will see you for the weekend forecast. Much love. Peace.